Hello there. How you doing? Paul here. I'm having a bit of a predicament today. Wait, I'll see if I can turn this around. If you could type a message in the chat, please, so I can see who's here. I can see some people are here. Kelly. I'm having to go be down in my chair. Hello. How's it going? I'm having a bad day. Hey, Tish and Don. Who else is there? Sarah. I've had to change plans. I had a few problems this morning. The first one was the weather. Well, no, the first one was that the grounds of Holyrood Abbey were closed today. I was supposed to be doing a tour from inside the Abbey, and the Abbey was closed. And then I had another problem. Hey, Linda! Connie! Yeah, I had a problem because I got a telephone call this morning. I'm getting my flyers made for my new company. The guy phoned me this morning. Oh, I'll see you around about 2 o'clock. And I'm like, hi, Mark and Nan. I says, oh, look, pal, I've got a tour. I says, can you please come before 2? And basically, they haven't come, so I had to get 2 setups. Luckily, I've got like more than one gimbal. I've got about 5 gimbals. So I set up a gimbal in the house and I had a gimbal with me in case the guy came last minute type of thing. And he hasn't came yet, so I've had to do this from home. So apologies, but at least you're getting to see the grounds of the Abbey. Hi, Diane. Linda. Who's Linda? Linda who? Oh, Linda from New York. I thought it was another. I thought it was maybe Linda Prow. Oh, is Linda Prow there? Trying to see if Linda Prow's there. And it's quite annoying because my phone covers, the phone holder's hiding how many people are on the tour. You can see how it joins onto the palace. Here, the ancient abbey, joins onto the 17th century palace here. Hey Carolina! Are we going into the abbey? Yes, we're going in, but part of it's still not fully opened. King was about to attack the king. The king was a devout Roman Catholic, so he started praying to God to be saved from. See, it's a great location next to the R4 seat. It tells me there's 21 people watching. I'll just tell you why we're here. This is the ancient abbey of the Holyrood Abbey. Holyrood means holy cross. So rood is a Scots word for cross. Holy is holy. Hey, Fran. I seem to be very Kerry, hello. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. It's a leap year. I just found out today it's a leap year. The first, one of Scotland's greatest ever kings, King David I, was hunting in Arthur's Seat here, okay? And he was on a horse and he got separated from his party, right? And there's various stories about what actually happened, right? But the basic thing is he got separated from the hunting party, so the king was on his own, on his horse, and a massive white stag. You know how stags are normally brown, red deer? Well, this deer was white, a big white stag, a big massive white stag with massive antlers. And the horse reared up and the king got chucked off his horse. And just as the stag was about to attack the king was a devout Roman Catholic, so he started praying to God to be saved from the stag, the white stag. And all of a sudden, the stag disappeared and the king was left holding a wooden cross. Now, there's various forms how that happened. Sometimes the story goes the stag was frightened by the gold crucifix. The sunlight hit the king's crucifix and the stag was scared away. There is about 3 or 4 different versions of the story. But the outcome was the king survived being attacked by the stag. And there was monks working the land here. And he decided to build an abbey for them. So he did. straight away he built this ancient abbey here. There is another version of why it's called Holyrood, okay? So as I said, Holyrood is Holy Cross, and it was named after the king who was left holding a crucifix after he got attacked by a stag, the Holy Cross. Holyrood is a cross. There is another version that either him or his mother had a piece of the original cross that Jesus was crucified upon, and it was brought to Scotland. But as we all know, anyone who knows anything about medieval history, that almost every Catholic church in Europe had a piece of the cross. So there are various versions of why it's called Holyrood. But it's Holyrood, not Holly. Holy and Rood, Holy Cross. Not. It's just like people say holiday, isn't it? Holiday. But it's actually Holy Day. Thank you, Sarah and Julian. So the original abbey dates back to 1128. It got massively extended in the 1300s and again in the 1500s as well. And then in the 1500s, the palace next door was built, the Palace of Holyrood. So the abbey was an Augustine, I can't even say the word, Augustine? I can't even say it. I'll give up on that one. It was a very holy place. It was a monastery. And thank you for following my channel. And the palace itself started getting built in the early 1500s. And I'll show you a little bit once we go around. This is the gardens here. This is a paid-for visitor attraction. As you can see, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth was here. One of her favourite places for Queen Elizabeth, who just died last year. She came here on her final journey as she moved from Scotland to England, to Westminster. Her body lay in state in St Giles Cathedral. That the Queen herself would have walked about these grounds herself. Lots of kings and queens and so on. So isn't that amazing? We're walking in the same grounds as Bonnie Prince Charlie, Charles I, Bonnie Prince Charlie, George IV, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, King Edward, and of course, the lady who we're here to talk about today, Mary, Queen of Scots. There was letters found just recently, this week, in a French library. I'll talk about that once the tour gets going. Oh. Oops, my microphone has just fallen out of my ear. Apologies for that. So yes, I'll talk about the letters in a little while. I'll just show you a little bit of the palace first and the abbey. We'll go into the ancient abbey to have a look at it. And see, you can just imagine walking around here. Beautiful grounds. As I said, it's a paid-for visitor attraction here. It's £19 for an adult. You get cheaper if you're a pensioner or disabled. Hi, Attic Girl, Cheryl, Mark, everyone. The good thing is, if you live in Edinburgh, you can buy one ticket, right? And if you donate it back to them, you can actually get a pass free for a whole year. So I bought a day ticket last March for £19.50, and I could have came here every single day if I wanted to, without having to pay. So just bear that in mind if you do stay in Scotland. Sometimes a lot of buildings, they do that. If you donate back the ticket to them for charity, I don't understand how it works, but then you get given a free pass for a whole year. Do I like Nicola Sturgeon? I'm a supporter of independence. I'm a Scottish Jacobite. My name is Paul James Stewart. Wow, Rennie, that was amazing. So this is the ancient abbey here. As you can see, it was partially closed off. This is the first time it's been open for a couple of years now. So we'll go inside. I'll show you what we can see inside the abbey itself. I've got a couple of images of how it used to look. So I'll put that in the chat. You know how to put a message in the chat, everyone? Everyone, just in case you're here for the very first time. Getting details. Hey, Phyllis and Joyce. How you doing? This is one of the arched entrances here. As you can see, the Scottish weather does it. This is soft sandstone. And the Scottish weather does it no good. But just imagine, this is almost 900 years old. 1128. Look at this, you can just feel the history. Mary, Queen of Scots, King James IV and Mary Margaret Tudor of England were married here.
Sandy,
Robert the Bruce is held here. Charles I was coronated here. Mary Queen of Scots, of course, it was destroyed by the English in 1544. And that is when the rough wooing period, it's all linked to Mary Queen of Scots, you see. In 1544, Henry VIII of England, this is Holyrood Abbey. This is the Abbey of Holyrood. People call it Holyrood, but it's holy, as in holy. And Holyrood means Holy Cross. Rood is a Scots word for cross. And Mary Queen of Scots would have been here, but as I mentioned, during 1544 and 1547, Henry VIII launched war on Scotland to try and force the Scots to allow the marriage between Mary and his son Edward to go ahead. So he basically destroyed this church. So it's been destroyed by the English first, by Henry VIII in 1544. Holyrood, holy. Hello again, Paul. I haven't seen you. Oh, Francis. Hello, Francis. How you doing? Holyrood, that's the one. Holyrood. As you can see, the roofs, at one point they tried to put slabs on the roof, right, to try and protect it. But that actually caused the roof to collapse, believe it or not. So yes, it was destroyed by the English in 1544. And of course, when Mary was packed off to France in 1560, her mother died, Mary of Guise. And that is when Scotland became a Protestant country once more. Of course, then in 1688, so it was destroyed by the Protestants as well. And then in 1688, it once again became a Catholic church. It did turn into a Protestant church for a while. But in 1688, it did turn back into a Catholic church. And so the Scots themselves destroyed it yet again. So, yes, it was destroyed again for the second time. Third, fourth, fifth time. It's had no luck at all, this church. As you can see, I'll put an image in. In fact, what I'll do is I'll stand back here and I'll put this image in to let you see what would have looked. Imagine, and you've got to use your imagination here. So I'm going to post the image of what it used to look like. Because bear in mind, before Scotland was a Roman Catholic country, it would have been a lot more ornate, you see. So look in the chat, everyone. Click on the picture.
So we're not getting to see the pictures because it was a Ego tour.
They look like...
Hopefully I'll show the screen.
Ornate, tiled walls and so on. But of course, like Glasgow Cathedral, the Protestants destroyed all the statues, all the idolatry and so on. So it would have been a lot more glamorous. And I've got to put another image in of what it used to look like. This is 1688. Look. So another image there. If you click on that again.
So that would have been handy if they would show you the images on the screen. But obviously you had to click on the chat to access the photographs.
Well, the first one was Henry VIII. He was trying to force the Scots to allow the marriage between his son Edward and Mary to go ahead. It was called the rough wooing period. You know how you try to woo somebody to try and get them to like you? You send them love letters. And
hey Beth, how you doing, pal? Nice to see you.
Sexy pictures and so on. So this was called the rough wooing period. So for 3 years they launched war in Scotland, trying to force the Scots to allow the marriage between his son Edward and Mary, when Mary was only 10-year-old. Mary was only going to be 10 when they were going to be married. And he was also going to turn Scotland into a Protestant country. In fact, just over here, we can't see it. In fact, sorry, I forgot to tell you this. So some of the Scottish kings and queens were buried here. Mary, Queen of Scots' dad, is buried here. King James V is buried over here, but we can't go over it. But see over there? That's where Mary, Queen of Scots' dad is buried. King James V. King James IV, as I mentioned, was married here to Margaret Tudor, the sister of Henry VIII. And of course, that's why that Mary, Queen of Scots, was the rightful heir to the crown of England. Mary was Catholic. Her grandmother was Margaret Tudor. So that gave her a bigger claim to the English crown than Elizabeth, because Elizabeth was illegitimate. She was a bastard queen, the virgin queen, the childless queen, they called her. But England had just had the other Mary back on the crown, Bloody Mary, who tried to turn England back to a Catholic country. So the English did not want, well, some English did not want Mary back on the crown of England because they feared that she would turn England Catholic once more, leading to further bloodshed and so on. Mary was legitimate, exactly. Can you walk under the arches? Yes, look here, see, look. People are dropping tickets, that's the second ticket, look here. Look at this, everyone. Look at the roof. I love England, I was born in England. I love England too. I just don't like being ruled by them. Look, this is the second ticket I've got to pick up. Beautiful, isn't it? I love England. So as you can see, I want England to be my neighbours. I don't want to be ruled by them, you know. So you can see there's modern stone here, there's smoother sandstone here. Look. Wow. Beautiful. So we're going to go and have a look at the palace. Joanna, could you get a front and the back of the castle? You think you've been hacked, Kim? Oh, that's not so good. That's it. That's it joined to the palace. You can see where it joins into the palace. There. You can see the palace itself started in the early 1500s. Early 1500s. It's been adapted 17th, 18th and 19th century as well. The Victorians done some work to it as well, obviously. The Victorians put their own stamp on it, which I'll show you in a minute, what the Victorians did.
Hi, Cheryl.
So that's the ruined abbey. Marissa. Kim, yeah, look, what you do is go back out and back in, Kim. Yeah, that happens sometimes. The double posts, just go back out and come back in. I think that'll help you. So here we are in the front of the entrance to the palace. I'll show you the oldest part in a wee second. You see here, there's Mary Regina's. Look, you see there, she was well known for hawking. She liked to hunt, Mary Queen of Scots. Mary Regina, see the Emma? Mary Regina. You see it?
Remember that was when after Hago got the zoom in function. Remember the zoom in function was excellent because I actually asked them. To get the zoom in function before I even joined Hago. Right back at the very start, I said to Hago, "You need to get a zoom in function." Yeah, we'll get it. And it must have taken them about over a year, but it was amazing when they got it.
She played football. The oldest soccer ball in the whole world, was found in a palace. The Mary Queen of Scots herself might have played football and golf as well. And you can see the unicorn. You'll see the unicorn all over Scotland. The unicorn is our national animal. As you can see here.
Linda, it's on YouTube. On my YouTube channel, as long as you've subscribed. If you can like the video, everyone, and subscribe to my channel.
Queen Victoria came to visit Scotland for the first time in July, I think it was, 1842. And she didn't like the Scottish weather, so Queen Victoria got a glass archway built there. You see a glass archway built there? And that was to protect her from the Scottish weather. So she would just get off she would just get out the carriage, the horse and carriage directly into the glass arch, so she wouldn't be affected by the Scottish weather. I don't blame her myself. I don't like the Scottish weather too much myself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the phone vertically for 2 seconds, right? I'm going to turn the phone vertically. So what
remember the Adam shot. Remember Adam from Budapest in Hungary. He invented the
5 seconds, get ready with your postcards.
The shot.
When you download them, you have to take them, remember, see? The crown and the clock. The unicorn.
No problem, Linda. So Artie's saying Perfect. Artie's found images, so Artie's going to post them on the Facebook group.
Beautiful, isn't it? This is the ground. So let me show you here. This is the oldest part of the palace here. So this is where Mary Queen of Scots. This is her bed chambers up here. So this is where David Rizzio was murdered. So when Mary came back I'll tell you the story, but start from the beginning, but just to bring it up to this murder that took place in here. When Mary was pregnant on her return from France, she married her second cousin, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, and he was very jealous of this David Rizzio. He was her private secretary, a little Italian guy. He actually thought that the child, Mary's child, that he was the father, right? So he was very jealous. And so what happened was Darnley wanted to become king, but Mary didn't want him to become king. So when she was 6 months pregnant, a group of men led by Lord Ruthven and Darnley was there as well. And they ran in and stabbed him at least 53 times. They stabbed David Rizzio to death and chucked him down the staircase. If you do come to visit the palace,
it was 56.
Bloodstains on the floor. They tell you that's the bloodstains of Lord Darnley where he was left, but it wasn't. I don't believe it. The story's not true. But yeah, but in the latest movie by Mary Queen of Scots, okay, there is a movie about Mary Queen of Scots, Saoirse Ronan, and there's actually a scene in that where David Rizzio gets caught in bed with Mary's husband. So Mary's husband, Darnley, who stabbed David Rizzio, he was probably having an affair with him himself. Because David Rizzio, what's his name, Lord Darnley was bisexual, what they would call today. You saw the figures of kings and queens. Can you spot Mary? Look at Mary with the dove, with the eagle. You see Mary there? Look. See Mary? Look. This is all the different kings and queens. David Rizzio's up there as well, her personal secretary. This is a replica of the one in the Linlithgow Palace. So what I'll do is I'll go around and I'll get you a shot from this direction. Yeah, this is a replica of the one from the Linlithgow Palace. This is only Victorian. This is Queen Victoria. She actually wanted to remove the one from the Linlithgow Palace and bring it here, but the Linlithgow Palace says, no, you're not getting it. And so they just built another one for her as well. It gets lit up at night, and it's still in use today. Emily, you've seen it. Bonnie from Nova Scotia. Yeah, so it does when the monarchs come.
That's quite weird. You might hear your name getting mentioned in the chat.
Linlithgow Palace, however, used to flow with wine. Incredible, eh? So that's the oldest part of the palace there. That's where Mary Queen of Scots was, this chunk here. That's 1500s. And then you get 16th, 17th century as well. And you can see as it goes on, it's been adapted over the years as well. But I just want to show you these beautiful gates down here as well. And I'll put an image in. I've got some images from inside it. So this is inside. I'm going to put up some pictures inside in the chat for you, right? And this is inside the castle. This is inside the palace.
Hey, Laurie, good to see you.
This is inside the palace. Some various rooms here. A picture of King Charles II. King Charles II. That's big paintings inside the palace as well. Oops. Oh, what are you doing? This is a throne room. If you click on the pictures, you can save them. That's the throne room. Yeah, beautiful, isn't it? Well, of course, he was the first apostle of Jesus. Come with me, and I will make you a fisher of men, he said. So this is all Victorian. This is like 1860s. This stuff here. Again, the Victorians put this on. That's Mary. I just want to show you these what do you call them? I've just forgotten what they're called. Lights. I've just forgotten what lights are called. The lamps or whatever they're called. Look up here. Hey, Kirsten. Sean Connery. He used to be a nude. Before he became famous, he was a nude model, ladies. He was a nude model. And seemingly he had nothing to hide. He had nothing to be ashamed of, shall we say. Look at the elaborate lamps. Street lights. Yeah, Sean Connery was a nude model. And seemingly he was quite well. What shall we say?
This is quite funny because you're not actually allowed to film inside the grounds of the palace, and so I've got to leave and try and get out without the staff catching me. This part here, by the way, this little section here is actually quite old as well. Obviously, it's because it's a live Hago tour. I'm doing a lot of like framing shots for postcards and stuff like that. But in regards to like the Adam shot, remember the puddle shot from Mark from Amsterdam? Remember he used to get all the brilliant reflections in the puddles as well. So wasn't it quite... but Mark said, right, and I was actually thinking of doing that as well, was Mark actually went and done a tour with a photographer to teach him how to do the best shots. And I had actually thought of doing that as well, and I think I might... it's still be handy because you get it from a photographer's aspect, you know, but the postcard feature's gone now, hasn't it? You know, you can still do screenshots, of course. So this is me going out. I've got to sneak past the staff to get out. I'm getting worried. Thank you so much. They don't know I'm filming live. The picture quality's not very good there. Remember, sometimes Hago in Edinburgh got really bad signals. There are cafe, toilets, shop as well. Obviously, there's a gift shop, Scotland, every place. And visitor attraction has a. Where are these dudes? Fast forward. Scotland is not yet an independent country. It could be the next independent country. In fact, I'll need to put a tune back up. I'll need to put a tune up about that again. We have a system called devolution. So we've got a parliament, but we're not responsible for everything. We're responsible for transport, education, the environment, the NHS, law, and so on. The legal system has always been different in Scotland and England. The NHS is separate. Just think, Mark, that'll be you soon on the tour buses, but not that one. But as you can see, it's a very different looking building to the ancient palace. Just take lots of postcards as I'm walking about. You see here, you see the S on the floor. Sam does a tune about the Psychic Garden. Okay, so the S for yeah, but Martin does one about this bit here. Martin does one about the buildings. Martin does one about this area of the Royal Mill here. And you can see the S for sanctuary. That's, yeah, you could actually avoid paying your debt if you went in there. The monks would look after you and try and smuggle you out. Thomas Dickinsey. Colleen, thank you so much. Why is the volume increased so much? Very different. The Ukrainian flag there. The butcher's apron, the Union flag. The Saltire, the Scotland flag, the St Andrew's Cross, and of course the European Union flag. Scotland wants to stay in Europe. That's why I think we will get independence, because Scots were taken out of the EU, despite voting 62% to stay in the EU. So I think that will lead to Scotland becoming independent. Thank you, Colleen. And this, as you can see, you see the bars on the windows? This is so the politicians can't escape. We keep the politicians behind bars. Do you have any Elvis fans? Did I tell you last night my pet mouse Elvis died? It got caught in a trap. And you see them? Remember Elvis had big sideburns? Elvis had big sideburns, yeah? That's what Elvis Presley's hair, you know the side of your hair? That's what they're based on, Elvis Presley's sideburns. If you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. Are we going inside the castle? You mean the palace? You're not allowed inside the palace to film. Or the castle. You're not allowed to film in the castle or the palace. The castle, I've done a couple of tours from inside the castle before. You just can't get caught, you get kicked out. So inside here, the signal was notoriously bad. Inside this courtyard. As soon as you... I'm assuming I'm going in there. Yeah, as soon as you go in there, the signal goes bad.
It's called White Horse Close, right? It's supposed to be named after Mary Queen of Scots' favourite white horse. You see here? White Horse Close. Supposed to be named after Mary Queen of Scots' favourite white horse. It was more likely to be named after the pub here. This building directly in front of us used to be a pub, a bar, and that was called the White Horse Inn, dating back to 1623. So the signal will drop in here, okay? So wait, the signal will go, so just wait, I'll come back once I go back out, okay? So get ready to take some postcards.
As soon as I step through, the signal goes. It's notorious. It's quite weird because sometimes the signal's okay.
Like in here, the bar goes down to 1. The beautiful, isn't it? You can see above the door there.
Yeah, I think so, Sandy.
1623, see it? 1623. This is just little houses now. There would have been stables here. So obviously this was not here when Mary Queen of Scots was here, but there would have been stables here. Thank you, Benita, for leaving a tip. Beautiful, isn't it? But no ball games and no cycling. Thank you, Benita, for leaving a tip. So hopefully the signal will pick back up now. Hopefully it's not too pixelated for you. And the signal will pick back up. So this is called the Royal Mile of Edinburgh. Most of you will know that because the palace sits at the bottom of the mile and the castle sits at the top. And that's where Mary Queen of Scots gave birth to her son James, who became James the First of England in 1603. And King James the Sixth of Scotland, when he was only just over 13 months old. But what we'll do is we'll go right back to the beginning. Good reception now. See, it's raining, right? My app said there was no rain.
So this tour's been on, look at that, for 42 minutes, right? And I haven't even started telling the story of Mary Queen of Scots. I've said a couple of things about Mary Queen of Scots, but the tour's been on for 42 minutes and I've not even started the story. Jesus Christ, this is mind-blowing watching this back. I just find that bizarre.
They were going to knock that down, see that building there? They were going to knock that down. But luckily, it was a 17th century building, I think, or 18th century. But luckily they decided to keep it as part of the Parliament, called Queensberry House. It's actually the bar. The King James Bible is probably the most inaccurate Bible of all of them, because what they did, you have to bear in mind, it was aimed at a Protestant audience, the King James Bible. The King James was King James the Sixth and First of England. But what they did was he was forced to become Protestant, despite being baptised Roman Catholic. And if it was too Catholic...
I've just noticed, if you look at the top, it's actually a virtual tour of Holyrood Abbey and the Royal Mile of Edinburgh. So I suppose I can get away with that one, but still, in total, the tour lasts for 1 hour and 15 minutes, and it's now nearly 44 minutes, and I've not went back to the start yet.
It got left out, or changed, shall we say. So the King James Bible was not very accurate. So, but I remember in the 1980s, 90s even, when you used to go to a hotel, you opened up the drawer and there was a copy of the...
That's okay, Peter, I've not started the tour yet.
Chimney. Yeah, I think somebody's hacked your account, Kim. I don't know what's going on.
Kim, what happened to Kim? She used to come on all my tours, Kim.
1542. 1542.
So here we go, it's now
what? The 8th of December. It's the depth of winter. Henry VIII has just invaded Scotland to try and turn Scotland Protestant. Her father was King James V of Scotland. Her mother was Mary of Guise, who was French. And the reason we had a French mother was because of the old alliance. Scotland and France had a treaty called the Alliance, which meant the kings and queens, the nobility would marry each other. You could trade freely. You could get dual nationality. And it also meant if England attacked Scotland, the French would come and help us, and we would help the French if England attacked them, and vice versa. And of course, both countries were Roman Catholic as well. There's Robert. Robert Ferguson, Robert Burns' favourite poet. Robert Ferguson, he only died when he was 24. So I'm going to quickly just show you this view and a grave here. There's a grave here. Remember David Rizzio? Remember Mary Queen of Scots' private secretary, who was murdered by her husband and the Protestant lords? Stabbed 53 times, thrown down the stairs. He was buried in Holyrood, but at some point it's believed his grave, his body was brought here. So this is believed to be the burial place of David Rizzio, the secretary of Mary Queen of Scots. But if you look on the plaque, right, it just says, tradition says that this is the grave of David Rizzio, murdered in 1566, transported from Holyrood. So that means they don't really know. They'll probably never know because they wouldn't have DNA. How could the DNA test them? You know what I mean? So I don't think that will ever get solved. So I'm just going to show you this view. We're in the old town area of Edinburgh. Edinburgh is split into two main areas. And what we're looking at over here is the new town. Hello, Lorraine. Simon. So that's the Georgian new town. You see the skies, the old time signal. Up there, the old Royal High School. It's getting turned into the National Music School of Scotland and so on. This is called the Canongate Church. Canongate is the road. Gate is a road. It's a Norse saying. Gate, it should be spelled G-A-I-T, and it means road, street, or thoroughfare. And it's the street or the road that led to the canons in the Abbey. Remember we started on the Abbey? So they had canons there, they're like priests. So the Canongate, the road down to the palace, was called, the area was called the Canongate area. And this church is called the Canongate Church. And this is where the Queen spent her time in Edinburgh. The Queen was a Christian, a Protestant. She wasn't the head of the church in Scotland. She was the head of the Church of England. She was not the head of the Church of Scotland. She is just an ordinary member of the Church of Scotland because only Jesus can be the head of the Church of Scotland. They're Presbyterian, whereas the Church of England are Anglican. But this is where the Queen would come when she would come to Edinburgh at the end of June every year before she went up to Balmoral, and this is where she would go to church in Edinburgh. Patricia, yeah, Cynthia is finding the descendants. How would they find the descendants, you know? I don't know. Maybe they could. Maybe they could. Look at this funny statue here. Thank you, Patricia. Happy birthday! Whose happy birthday is it? Lorraine. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lorraine. Happy birthday to you. Cynthia as well. Happy birthday, Cynthia. And Paula, yesterday. Woohoo! Happy birthday to everyone. The serpent and the goat. Strange, isn't it? Yep, so this is the ancient church, the Canongate. This was built because, remember I says Holyrood got taken over by the Catholics again in 1688. Well, the Protestants rebuilt this church. So this is a Church of Scotland, Protestant church. And this is I think it's a tiger or a lion. Yeah, I'm not sure. This tree here was planted by the Queen herself. Queen Elizabeth, who just passed away. You see on the plaque.
Ah, so it was just after the Queen died.
Majesty Queen Elizabeth. On the 17th of July, 1947, she came to visit with her mother, the Queen Mother, and planted a couple of trees while she was here as well. This one as well. Lovely, isn't it? So there we go, that's the Canongate Church in David Rizzio. So you've seen the palace from the outside, you've seen the grounds, you've seen the ancient abbey, the White Horse Close, and I'm just going to show you quickly this for any Outlander fans. This featured in Outlander Series 3. This is called Bakehouse Close here. So anyhow,
gee whiz, you're getting it all in this tour, eh? God almighty, I can go on. I apologise, everyone.
Well, close here, obviously they would have taken away the metal railings and so on. Here, the metal railings and the pipes would have been hidden. The CCTV camera would have been removed for Outlander. But you see here, I think Sam does a tour of Outlander. So any Outlander fans, you can go onto Sam's tour and find out about the Outlander Season 3 here. So there we go. Lovely, isn't it? Nice little ancient close here. This is a great thing about Edinburgh. It still has got some medieval left. A lot of the old town got demolished. But you can see there is still some parts of medieval Edinburgh left. The old town got demolished at the 19th century. You can see the church. Yeah. And you see the stag. Remember the story of David I with the stag? So if you look at the top of the church, you see the stag, the white stag? And they're actually real antlers. Do you know where they get the antlers from? They get the antlers from Balmoral. One of the royal family or their staff will shoot a deer because the antlers have to get replaced every 2 years because of the weather here in Edinburgh. So the antlers from the white stag actually come from the Balmoral where the Queen died. The ancient Toll Booth Tavern as well, beautiful old building. Is it haunted? I've no idea. If you like haunted stuff, I'm doing a haunted pub tour with Mike, the other tour guide from Edinburgh. This is definitely haunted over here. So if you want to hear about haunted pubs of Edinburgh, if you can follow my channel, or if somebody could put a link up to it. So that pub is haunted. So watch out for that tour. I think it's on the 21st of February. 21st of February. It's on my channel if you want to have a look at it. Was the Queen Mother Scottish? No! People think the Queen Mother was Scottish, but she wasn't. As far as I know, she was born somewhere in England. But yeah, she did love... The royal family do love Scotland. They're our royal family. In fact, I'll get onto that, right? I'll go back to the story of Mary, how she became queen. She became queen because her father, James V, died after a battle with Henry VIII. The battle did not kill him. He was killed after the battle. And they don't really know why. There's different versions about how he died and so on. But basically, Mary, Queen of Scots, well, Mary became Queen of Scots at a few days old.
That's 52 minutes. 52 minutes.
Apart from being a queen. She was a devout Roman Catholic. She should have been the Queen of England. She was the rightful heir to the English crown. And obviously that would have changed history if Mary, Queen of Scots, had become Queen of England too. She was also the Queen of France, because after Henry VIII launched war in 1544, he destroyed Scotland for 3 years. And then in 1548, Mary de Guise, the mother of Mary, Queen of Scots, she had promised Mary to the future King of France, the Dauphin Francis. So Mary, at the age of 5, was packed off to France to become French and for her protection. Because of the alliance between Scotland and France, she was safe there. So she was essentially brought up French. She took 4 maids with her, 4 maids called the 4 Marys, but they were immediately taken away from her. But she did get to spend time with them, so she could still speak Scots, because you have to bear in mind at this point, Scotland did not speak English. We spoke Scots. You know the language that Robert Burns writes in? So Mary, because her 4 maids were with her, she still managed to learn Scots, as well as French, English, Latin, Italian, and who knows what else. What are the crooked lines on the streets? What crooked lines? I never saw them, sorry pal. If you can see them again. So, what happened with Scotland? When Henry VIII invaded Scotland in 1542 to try and turn us Protestant, before he launched the Rough Wooing War of 1644, He invaded Scotland to try and turn us Protestant. This was before Mary was born. But what they did was they left behind Protestant Bibles and Protestant literature. So Scotland was Roman Catholic, but the Protestants were growing in number, and some of the nobility preferred the Protestant faith to the Roman Catholic faith. So Scotland was turning Protestant. And what happened was in 1560, Mary de Guise died. And that's when Scotland became a Protestant country. You're not allowed to park. Sorry, if it's a zigzag lines, you're not allowed to park. You see the blue man climbing up the wall. Edinburgh was a walled city. And this is how Bill, if you went in through the official gate, there was a gate here to get into Edinburgh. Edinburgh began here, but you had to pay to go into Edinburgh. So people used to climb over the walls. So that's what the blue figure represents, people smuggling over the walls.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, Rose. Some people on here were probably on this tour.
Scotland turned Protestant. Also in 1560, Mary had previously been married. She was married to the future, the king. Her husband became the King of France much earlier than expected because his father got killed after a jousting accident. So they became king and queen at the age of 14 and 15. But he was a very sickly child, her husband Francis. And only after about less than 18 months, I think, he died. He died. So Mary was no longer the Queen of France. She was the Queen of Scotland, and she was the rightful heir to the Crown of England. So despite Scotland being a newly Protestant country, Mary was devout Catholic. At the age of 18, Mary, Queen of Scots, returned to Scotland to rule Scotland. Now, the man who led the Protestant Reformation was John Knox. And these two buildings here, the one here is called John Knox House. And these are the two oldest buildings outside of the castle. Two oldest houses, sorry. The Abbey is the oldest. But these are 16th century houses. There's no evidence that John Knox stayed there. But they're called John Knox House because he might have stayed there. And they were actually saved when the Old Town mostly got demolished. So John Knox led the Protestant Reformation. He was formerly a Roman Catholic priest, but he took sides with the Protestants, and the French actually kidnapped him and put him as a slave on a boat for 2 years before he managed to escape. So he turned Protestant, Presbyterian. He studied with John Calvin in Vienna. And Presbyterianism is the strictest form of Protestant, well, not the strictest, but it's a very strict form of Protestant, is Presbyterian. And he hated the French because he had been kidnapped and kept as a boat as a slave. He hated females, he was misogynistic, and he definitely hated Catholics. So him and Mary, Queen of Scots, were sworn enemies. They did meet each other at least 3 times, 2 or 3 times. But he was a pretty nasty man. And I'll show you his burial place. So Mary, on her return to Scotland, has to marry somebody. She's lost her first husband. So she has to marry again. Safety in numbers, and she has to produce her heir to maintain the Stuart dynasty, of course. When, just as a side point, her name was Stuart. I am a Stuart. S-T-E-W-A-R-T. But when Mary, Queen of Scots, moved to France, she changed the spelling to the French spelling. So her Stuart is S-T-U-A-R-T. There's no W. So there are 2 Stuarts in Scotland. And so what did she do? As I mentioned earlier, she married her second cousin, Lord Darnley, Henry Stuart. He also had a claim to the English throne as well. So Elizabeth knew if they had a child, if she died childless, that child would become the next monarch of England. And that is, in fact, what happened in 1603, when, as I mentioned, Elizabeth died with no children. And James I, James VI of Scotland, became James I of England too. But back to Mary and Darnley. As I mentioned earlier, he got her pregnant. He did one good thing. He got her pregnant. Thank you, Vicky. Janice, you just walked past the hotel. Is it Radisson Red? Radisson Blue? Radisson Blue. Very nice in there, 4-star. 4-star hotel. Thank you, Vicky. Yes, beautiful hotel, 4-star. As you can see, it's quite quiet. The weather's pretty crap. She actually gave birth to her son inside Edinburgh Castle, where the tour's going to end at the castle. And that's where she gave birth to her son there. In a tiny little room. Bear in mind, she was spending a lot of time in the palace, but for prestige reasons and for safety, she decided to give birth to James inside the castle, in a tiny little room. Oh, somebody's singing here, I can hear them. Don't know if it's just a drunk guy or if it's his... So, as I mentioned earlier, Darnley was a bit of a troublemaker. He was riddled with sexual diseases. He was sleeping with anything that moved, men or women. He wanted to become king. So there is another castle in Edinburgh called Craigmillar Castle. And a plot took place there called the Craigmillar Bond. A group of the supporters of Mary Queen of Scots met there, including Lord Bothwell. Remember that name, Bothwell. Okay, so Lord Bothwell and some of Mary Queen of Scots supporters met at Craigmillar Castle, and the bond was signed, and the outcome was he was going to die. A massive explosion took place in his house. However, the explosion did not kill him. He was found naked, outside, strangled to death beside the male servant. It's believed that it might have been Bothwell. Bothwell was the main subject, the main suspect. He was put on trial, but he was found not proven. In Scotland, we have guilty, and not proven. So there was not enough evidence. So Mary Queen of Scots went to Stirling Castle. Her second husband was now murdered. Her son was in Stirling Castle. So she went to see her son for what turned out to be the last time, because on the way back to Edinburgh, it's alleged that Bothwell kidnapped her, took her to Dunbar Castle and raped her. Now, historians today disagree whether or not that was a ploy, because some historians believe that Mary gave herself freely to Bothwell, but nobody knows for sure. But that enraged the Scottish Protestants, and a battle took place in Edinburgh. Bothwell was allowed to flee, but Mary was dragged through the streets of Edinburgh, spat upon and called a whore. She spent her last night of freedom here on this very spot. And I'm going to read out this sign, this plaque, dedicated to Mary Regina, 1567. On this site stood the lodgings of Sir Simon Preston of Craigmillar, Provost of the city of Edinburgh, in which lodging Mary Queen of Scotland, after her surrender to the Confederate lords, the Protestant lords, at the Battle of Carberry Hill, she spent her last night in Edinburgh on the 15th of June, 1567. On the following evening, she was conveyed to Holyrood and thereafter to Lochleven Castle as a state prisoner. As I said, she was dragged through the streets of Edinburgh, spat upon and called a whore because she was pregnant to Darnley. She married him. She had to marry him, that was the law. Even though he raped her, she had to marry him.
I made a mistake there, married to Bothwell.
It might have been her plan all along. As I say, I don't know. Historians disagree and argue about it today. She managed to escape eventually. She lost the twins, she miscarried the twins, but she did manage to escape. She was very persuasive. She was very beautiful. She was a very tall lady for the time. She was over 6 foot tall. A final conflict took place in Scotland with Mary's supporters, which Mary lost. She was forced to abdicate on behalf of her son James, and she fled to England. She fled to England to ask her cousin Elizabeth for help. What was she thinking of? Why did she not go to France? Why did she not wait on the French coming to pick her up? Why did she go to England? It was a risky decision. So straight away she was put in captivity in Carlisle Castle. She was kept in captivity for 19 years.
before eventually hatching a plot called the Babington plot, which we'll hear about in a minute. The plot was intercepted by Walsingham, remember his name. The letters were decoded, and Mary was sentenced to death for treason, despite never being a subject. William Wallace used the same defence when he was hung, drawn and quartered by the English, when he got done for treason. How can I get done for treason when I have never been an English subject? But the outcome was Mary was left to stew for a few days before they sorted out all the paperwork. And then she was executed by the axeman who messed up the execution. It took him 3 strikes to get her head chopped off. He then ended up having to saw her head off with the axe. And then he picked up the head to prove she was dead. Now, because she was in captivity, her beautiful auburn hair had all fallen out, and she was actually wearing a wig. So the head fell on the floor. Her underskirt started to move, and the little dog who had somehow got underneath her underskirt, to the little Skye Terrier, well, the Skye Terrier ran out and lay next to her head. The poor dog was covered in blood and suffering from trauma, and the wee dog died from trauma a few hours later. As I mentioned, Elizabeth died childless in 1603, and Mary, her son James, became the monarch of England. She got her wish, but he was Protestant. So yes, I've got Fliss has just put in about the letters. Exciting news this week. I'm going to put them in the chat for you, everyone. So look at the chat. Okay. So just this week, in the French Library, the French National Library in Paris, the researchers had some letters they were decoding, and they thought it was Italian. They'd been wrongly catalogued, the letters, and they thought it was Italian. But what they realised was it was actually French. It was French. And the letters kept on mentioning my son, and the letters then mentioned Walsingham. Remember Walsingham? Where the letters mentioned him. So that immediately alerted the researchers to think that it was Mary. That confirmed it was Mary. See that one? In a mislabeled box, yes. So they haven't all been, there was, what was it? In fact, I'll just go over it. Okay, I'll tell you the whole story about the letters, right? So the letters date back from 1578 to 1584. Mary was executed in 1587 on the 8th of February. So it was 3 years before she was executed. That's the period the letters have been found. They do believe there may be other letters still to be found. So watch this space. Right? There was 57 letters found, 50,000 words. What she wrote about was the conditions of her detention, her feelings of abandonment by the French. She also wrote about her son who had been kidnapped when he was a child. And she was also quite worried that her son did not try and get in touch with her as well. I think that must have upset her quite a lot, you know. Here's some nice postcards for you. Yeah, Francis Walsingham, right? He was the spy master of Queen Elizabeth. He was a devout Protestant. He had been banished from England by Bloody Mary, the Catholic, Elizabeth's sister, who tried to turn England Catholic again. So he hated the Catholics and the French. So he had a network of spies, informants, and so on. And they were to try and infiltrate any Catholic conspiracy circles. He had double agents working for him inside the prisons as well. And he was instrumental in the Babington plot. Remember the Babington plot? Well, he was instrumental in finding the letters and decoding them. And that's what sealed her death. The letters that she had been sending were smuggled out, encrypted, and they'd been concealed in a beer barrel's cork. And it was the letters that led to her execution, basically. You know what I mean?
The letters were sent to the French ambassador of London. And they ended up back in Paris, because that's where they were. Oh. So we're just about to finish the tour. Are you enjoying the tour, everyone? Yes, there was 50,000 words. The researchers who found them are not historians, so they don't know the significance of them. It still hasn't been, the significance of the letters hasn't been fully discovered yet. So there is talks of a book getting made from the letters, so I'm excited to find out about that. So let's look forward to that coming out of the book, and we can see, because some of it could change history, you know. That's the great thing about researchers and archaeologists and historians. They're always finding out new information, new discoveries. So this might actually change history. You never know. So she was executed at the age of 44. Tragic queen. As I say, she never had a life at all. She was used as a pawn by everyone. Her mother, the French, the Scots, the English, the Spanish. I never understood why the French or the Spanish did not try and invade England during this period. In fact, the Spanish Armada waited until Mary was free. And then they invaded.
When Mary was dead.
Spanish Armada. So I find that bizarre. So give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the tour today. Just to finish off, I'm just going to get some nice postcards of Edinburgh Castle. Sorry, thank you, Mary Lou, for leaving a tip. Let's go and get some postcards of the castle. As you can see, it's quite quiet. Rugby, should be loads of Welsh here, actually. Where's all the Welsh rugby fans? I thought the Welshes would have been here. So just up here is the apartment where Mary Queen of Scots gave birth. And of course, when Mary was forced to abdicate to England, her supporters held the castle. And the Scots had to ask the English, it was called the Long Siege, to get rid of Mary Queen of Scots supporters. The Scots had to ask the English to come up and help them get rid of the Scottish Catholics holding the castle. It led to civil war in Scotland. So people go up for Instagrammers. Look. Can you teach us to say thank you? There's loads of... Do you mean Gaelic? Because bear in mind, Scotland has got 3 languages: English, Scots and Gaelic. So there's Edinburgh Castle for you, isn't it beautiful? And by the way, just as a point of note, Gaelic. See the statue on the... One second. See the statue there? That is Robert the Bruce, the real Braveheart. And his daughter, right, his daughter was called Marjorie. And she was the first... Well, she married a guy called Robert Stewart, okay? So his daughter, Marjorie Bruce, married a guy called Robert Stewart, and they had a son called Robert Stewart, who became King of Scotland, King Robert II, and he was the first Stewart monarch. So the Stewart dynasty actually started with the daughter of Robert the Bruce. And on the other side, you've got William Wallace. You have 2 statues, Robert the Bruce on the left, and William Wallace on the right. Freedom! And that's the archie. That's all Victorian. That's 1860s. That part there dates back to Mary Queen of Scots, 1573. There used to be a big tower there called King David Tower, and that got destroyed by the English during the Long Siege. So that half-moon battery dates back to 1573. So there you go, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the tour today. Just a reminder, thank you very much, Brunei, for the tips. Just a reminder, it's a tip-based platform. If you have enjoyed the tour, if you can chuck in a couple of pounds, that would be fantastic. If not, don't worry about it. I've got my 2-year anniversary tour coming up tomorrow.
Hope you enjoyed the tour, everyone. Thanks very much for coming on my tour. I'm just going to turn this... Just the screen's a bit close. Yeah, so thanks very much for coming on the tour. It's quite strange looking back on the Hago tour. So what I've learnt today is... because because I was doing these tours for Hago, right? Obviously there was a lot of chit chat, a lot of like stopping for postcards and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to redo these tours, just record them, you know, and put them back on my YouTube channels. So, yeah, because I think looking back, you know, because you spend too much time on the postcards and all that kind of stuff. I know it's kind of like nice to be reminiscing because you might have actually been on that tour, as some of you were on that tour, you know. But, you know, look, there I am. Look. What's happened to the camera? Must have been raining. That's quite weird seeing it back there, because that was like, when was it filmed? So exactly a year ago that was put up. So that was put up a year ago. Because it was in January, February, because the rugby was on. Because I was talking about the Welsh being there, you know. So that's quite weird. By the way, I got my, just as the tour was starting, I got my flyers in. So I got my flyers in now, so wow, that's weird. I've just noticed on the top for the first time, right? See on the top image, I've just noticed that my face is there. I had never even noticed that before. Wow, that's actually really spooky. That is mental, because I have never even noticed that before. Why would they do that? Because you can't actually see it. See, when you look close at it, you can't actually see my face. I look like a ghost. That is bizarre. Wow. Yeah, so that's my flyer. So I've got one regret, right? Because that's the front of the flyer. That's the front of the flyer, right? I can't believe my face is on the top of that image. Oh, it's on the back. That's what it is, look. It's on the back. It's not on the image. Christ, I was getting a bit worried because I couldn't see it on the flyer. I'm like, what the hell? So, but see how the QR code's on the back? That should have been on the front. That's the front, Don, right? Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm on the back. I thought it was me. Like, what the heck? But yeah, my one regret is not having the QR code on the front, because if people will actually have to physically pick it up and turn it round to access the QR code. So yeah, I'm a bit cheesed off of that. So that'll be getting changed. My business cards came as well. Oh, look, it's got a slight delay on it. Whoa, it's weird, man. Whoa. That's not a very good view, is it, at all? Well, my business card's there as well, with the QR code on the back. But what I've also done is I've also put up my business advisor has got cards made up for with a QR code linking to all my channels, you know, like Get My Guide, Viator, TripAdvisor and so on, for people to leave reviews. So every time I do a tour, I'll hand out the flyers. Yes, Don, yes, that's what it was. I was on the back. And I thought it was like somehow a ghost on the front, because you can't see it on the flyer, you know. It's just obviously because it's on a camera. But anyway, people, thank you very much. That's my channel there, everyone. If you haven't, most of you probably already subscribed, but if you haven't already, if you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. And I've got a tour tomorrow from a surprise location. The weather forecast is looking a bit ropey, but hopefully it'll be okay. So if you can join me tomorrow, please do so. And thank you very much. And have a great day. What's left of it, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like the video as well. And share pictures. If you have pictures, share them as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.